Welcome back to the Chelsweets kitchen. Today we're making this adorable monster cake. So this cake is being made for a small child's birthday, and I wanted it to have a little bit less sugar than my normal cakes. So I opted to use some banana cake layers to make it. The recipe for this cake is up on Chelsweets.com, and the link to it is included in the description below. I wanted the inside of this cake to be just as fun as the outside, so I'm piping some different colors of blue and orange frosting into rings, and this is going to create a really fun kind of striped effect when we cut into the cake. So here I've used 3 7-inch cake layers, and I'm topping it with 1 6-inch cake layer because we're going to be trimming this to create the tapered shape of the monster head. So here I'm using a serrated knife just to trim away that top layer, and we're going to round it out using some extra frosting. I covered the cake in a blue crumb coat, which is the same color that I'm going to be adding the fur onto the cake. And it's important that your crumb coat is the same color as your fur, because that way if you have any areas that peek through without fur, it won't be as noticeable. And here I'm using an acetate sheet to smooth the crumb coat. They work so well whenever you have curved surfaces. So while the crumb coat chilled in the fridge, I worked on the fondant accents to make the monster's horns, mouth, and eyes. So I didn't want the monster's horns to be too big. I wanted them to be pretty playful, so I made them about 1 inch long. I also inserted a toothpick into them later so that I could easily stick them onto the cake. Next, I began working on the monster's eyes and mouth. So I have a pretty wide variety of circle cutters, and I used them to make both the eyes, and I cut 1 large circle in half to shape the monster's mouth. To make all of the monster's teeth, I used a tiny push circle cutter to make little circles that are about 1 centimeter across. I lined them up on top of the mouth and cut away any excess that was hanging over. I then repeated this process with the bottom teeth as well. I added a bit of frosting on back of each fondant piece to secure it onto my chilled cake. Then came the fun part and the real work, which is piping the fur around the monster. So here I'm using a Wilton 233 tip to pipe on the fur, and once I added a little bit of the blue base, I realized I wanted to also add on some polka dots. So I wanted these to really stand out, and I used a bit of orange frosting to make them. This takes a while to add the fur on all around the cake, and if you find that your piping bag is getting a little bit too warm or your frosting is starting to change colors, definitely take a break or add some paper towel or a dish towel around your frosting bag to help minimize the transfer of heat from your hands to your frosting. I felt like my monster needed a little bit more sass, so I gave him a really fun little tuft of hair on top of his head. Normally this is when I like to say that's all there is to it, but piping on fur is so tiring and really takes a ton of hand strength. So after all that hard work, I wanted to cut in and see the really fun pattern that we created by piping on those different colors of frosting. I couldn't resist using this orange knife to cut into this cake. It just seemed like such a perfect match. I get asked pretty frequently where my knives are from, and if you Google colored knife on Amazon, the assorted pack will pop up. So thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this furry monster cake as much as I enjoyed making it. See you next time!